Hey guys, it's Trey back again with another video. And in today's video, I want to go ahead and fix the issues that we saw with our table component. So if you watched the last series that we did, where we set up a MySQL database and also a React front end that makes calls to the database and gets that information out, then you need to go check that out so you can see what issues that we ran into with this table component. The first thing you're going to need to do to follow along here is go to my GitHub page and copy down this React Components project here. So if you go here, you just click code and copy it. You can go back here into your terminal. You can just type in git clone, paste it in and copy it down, and just cd into React Components. And you'll be where we are right now. All right. So once we get here, we need to go ahead and fix this component here. So in components table.js, this is the component we need to fix. So if we go to our app.js, I'm going to go in and erase some things because the last thing we did was the list box. So we have that stuff still here. So I'm going to erase all of that stuff. I'm going to get rid of this list box import and also this country list import. I'm going to save that. And now we want to import our table. So import the table. We need to have a list, which will be the objects that we want to show in the table. And then we also need the column names. So it'll be column names. All right. And I'm going to close this out. So let's import our table. So that'll pull our table in. And now we can add in our list and our column names. So I'm just going to copy this over because it's not really the point of this video today. So I'm going to copy these over. So my list will be list and my column names will be column names. All right. So this will set up our table. So I'm going to run this so we can see the issues with our table. So I'm going to type in npm run start. And this will start up our React Components project. And now we can see that one issue just immediately is these buttons and this page icon here, this page number here is not centered. So we want this to be somewhere like right here in the middle of the entire table. But for right now, it's just on the second column here. So let's go ahead and center this first. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. So if we go to our table.js and we scroll down, the first thing we'll see down here is in our footer, we have this empty TD and then we just have another TD. So we're going to get rid of that TD. And then the first thing we're going to do in the footer is create a table row. So we're going to create this row. We're going to take the other TD. We're going to cut that. And we will paste it here inside of the row. And then on this TD, we're going to add a column span. So we'll say call span. And then we're going to set that equal to call names dot length. All right. So now if we look, it is now centered. So now we have the buttons and the page number centered across the entire table. So the next thing we want to do is we have hard coded the width of this table to be 50%. So it's not even taking into consideration what we pass in for the width. So what we want to do is we want to take that and just remove. Just only thing we want to do is have the width here. So we set that and now we see the width is just shrinking. So let's go back to our app.js and pass in a width. So let's say we actually do want our width to be 50%. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to type in width and then we're going to set that to 50%. And now we see that the table is actually using that. Those are really the two main issues that I saw when we were working. But there's some other things I want to add. So this is more like enhancements at this point. And now what I want to do is add some functionality to the actual table. So if you say you click on one of these, right, just click on one of these rows, I want it to allow you to do something with that information. So when you click on a row, I want you to be able to pass in a function that you can use whenever you click on a row. So you click on a row, now you can do something with that row. You'll get all of the information on this row that you clicked on. and you can do something with that information. All right. And then also I want to add a button for you to be able to delete things from the table. So on this side over here, we'll add like an actions column, and then we'll have a delete button that you can click, and it'll actually allow you to run some type of logic, whatever function you want to pass in to actually delete this row, whether it be from the database or whatever. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we did it in the last series, so you can go ahead and check that out and you'll see exactly what I mean. So let's go ahead and add that stuff. So we're going to go into our table.js, and we're going to scroll up to the top where we're passing in our props. And then we're going to pass in two functions. So we're going to have an onSelect function, and this function will default to just console logging out the whatever row you clicked on, the information from the row that you clicked on. So I'm going to pass in obj here, and it'll just print out whatever you clicked on by default. And then we're also going to have an onDelete function. And this is going to start off to be null. So just by default is null. There is no onDelete. You have to say that I want an onDelete function. All right. So once we have those two things, we can go ahead and put them to use in our table. So let's scroll down right here under where we are mapping out our headers. We're going to go underneath this map, and then we're going to basically check to see if the onDelete function is available. So right now, as you can see, it's null by default. So this, what we're about to write, won't show up unless that is not null. If you actually pass an onDelete function in, then this code right here will run. So we're going to say onDelete, and then we're going to do two ampersands, and then we're going to pass in a table header, and then inside this table header, it'll say actions. So that will give us another header on the table. So basically a whole nother column. And then we're going to scroll down here. So inside of, well, basically after this map, pretty much, we want to add in another TD, basically if onDelete is there. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say onDelete, and then we're going to do two ampersands. And then inside of here, we're going to pass in a TD. Inside of this TD, we're going to pass in a button. And this button is going to be, it'll just say delete. Or you can put an icon here, however you want to do it. I'm just going to type it in for simplicity's sake. And then I'm going to have an onClick. And this onClick is going to call our onDelete function. So onDelete is going to take in our object. And then we want to call onDelete. So we'll say onDelete. And then we're going to pass in that object. I guess we really don't need that. All right, so we have that. Now we have this onDelete button. All right, and I think that should be fine for that. Next up, let's go ahead and move into where this map is, and we want to do something with the onSelect. So whenever one of these TDs is selected, we want to call the onSelect method. So we're going to say onClick, and then we're going to call onSelect. So we will have onSelect, and then we're going to pass in our obj. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to refresh. When we click onSelect, I'm going to open this inspect just to check our onSelect, make sure that works. So when we click, as we can see, we clicked on the Gustavo line, and that is what's pulling up here. So you can check the values that these are the same. Let's click on the Tiffany line and see what happens. All right, cool. So we're printing out Tiffany. So this is working. So when we do onSelect, so whenever we click on any of these, it'll give us that information back, and we can do something with that information, whatever it is that we want to do. Display the information in a form, or however we want to do it, whatever we want to do with it. All right. So the next thing we want to check on is this onDelete function, since we've created that. So we're going to come back out here to our table, and we're going to actually pass in an onDelete function. So we'll say onDelete, and let me do our curlies, and this will take in our case, a student, and then we'll just print it out. So we'll console.log student. All right. So this is going to be our onDelete function. So let's go back here. So now we can see immediately that we have this delete button here. And if we click it, we see we're getting that information. So we know that this is working as well. All right. Now the problem is the styling. Obviously we want these buttons to match these buttons. And also we can see that these are not aligned anymore. So these are not in the center. It should be more over here somewhere. All right, so we're going to align these buttons again, and then we'll set these this styling to match these buttons. Okay. All right, so let's do this alignment. If we go back to our table.js, then we can update this. So right now we're just taking the column names.length and setting that to be the length of the call span. But remember, when we pass in an on delete, the call span should be whatever the length of the columns are plus 1, because we are adding this extra column of actions here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that's going to allow us to get the length depending on if we passed in any actions or not. So we're going to say get column length. So this is going to be our new function. And then we're going to say const has actions. So it's basically going to check to see if we have actions. It'll be on delete. So if on delete is a thing and is not null, then has actions will come back as true. And then we're going to say return, and then we'll say has actions. And then if it has actions, we want to return column names.length, and then we're going to add one because we know there's an action there, so we're going to have an extra column. Otherwise, just return column names.length. All right. So that's how we're going to do that. And then we're going to take this function and pass it in back where we were doing the column names.length before, down here in this area here. So we're going to say Control V, and we actually want to call that function. So we're going to do it like that. So now we can see that these have moved over some. So now they're all the way centered. Next up, let's go ahead and hit these buttons and get those correct. So really, we just want to take this button style and throw it on the button. So here's the button, take button style, throw it on there. There we go. Now, next up, we can see that these columns are kind of scrunched on top of each other. We really don't want them to be like directly on top of each other. We want to give them some breathing room. So we'll do that in our, I believe right here, we want to take our TDs and we want to add a little bit of padding to them. So we'll say style, and then we're going to want to do padding, and then we'll add 5 pixels, and then we'll do 0. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, see, now we got a little bit more room. As you can see, there's a little bit of space there. So we're going to, I guess that'll be fine. You can add more space if you want, but I think that's decent. I just want to add a little bit of room. Okay, so pretty much done. One other thing I want to do is add a hover effect to these buttons here. So if you hover over a button or anything that's hoverable, you get a pointer. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go to our index.css here, and I'm going to create a class called hoverable, and it'll have hover, and then we're going to say cursor pointer. All right, and then let's add hoverable to some of these classes here. So we know all the buttons we want to be hoverable. So we're going to have a class name, and then we'll set it to hoverable. All right, and I'm going to copy this so I can do it for the rest of these buttons. So boom, we'll throw it there. We'll throw it on this button. And I guess we could throw it on the actual rows as well. I'll do it right above the style. Throw that on there. I think we should. There we go. So now everything you hover over that can be clicked has a pointer. All right, so that's pretty much that. And the last thing I want to do is add a basically like a title bar, so we know that these are students, so you can pass in a title. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up to where the props are being passed in. We're going to add a title here. All right, and for default, we can just put table. And now let's scroll down. All right, so above, so in the T header, above this first row, we're going to add another row. And then we're going to pass in a T header. And the T header is going to have the title in it. All right. Let's do like an H4 or something. And this will have the title. So let me just rewrite that. And then I'm going to get rid of this one. All right. So the other thing we need to do is make sure that we have the correct call span here. So to stretch all the way across the table. So we've created a function for that, which will be get column length. All right. So now we have our table here. All right. H4 doesn't look too good. Let's try these 3. That's better. All right, and then for our table, we're gonna add some padding here too. So we'll do style, and then we'll say padding, and then let's give it 10 pixels. I always forget to put these in quotes. So 10 pixels, and then we'll do 0. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Now we got a little bit of room on it. There we go. So now we have the title. So let's pass in the title in our app.js to make sure it's working. Come to the top, we'll say title, and then we'll say students. All right, there we go. So it says students now. So now we have a title as well. So I think that's pretty much it for this. We've updated everything, kind of looks decent. We've added some functionality to the table. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. And I will see you guys in the next video.